August 27th, 1776, Brooklyn Heights. George Washington is staring at the East River, knowing that crossing it means survival. Not crossing it means dying here, with 9,000 men, with the entire revolution. Behind him, British lines advance slowly, methodical. There's no rush when you have 32,000 soldiers, the most powerful navy in the world, and the enemy trapped against a river with no way out. 2 days earlier, Washington lost the Battle of Long Island in less than 4 hours. It wasn't a defeat. It was a tactical execution. The British flanked, surrounded, slaughtered. Over 300 Americans dead, over 1,000 captured. The rest ran. Now they're here, trapped, waiting for the final blow. Washington's men don't have enough food, don't have enough gunpowder. Many don't have boots. They sleep in mud. Some are sick. Most are scared. Everyone knows that if the British attack in the morning, there's no defensive line that will hold. And everyone knows the British will attack in the morning. If this story is hitting you, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there. Because what's about to happen on this August night is impossible. And if it hadn't happened, you wouldn't be reading this in English. You wouldn't be reading about the United States, because the United States would have died here with 9,000 wet men, surrounded, without hope. Washington knows this. He just signed the Declaration of Independence 6 weeks ago, ink still fresh. Beautiful words about freedom and rights, but words don't stop British bayonets. Words don't cross rivers in the dark. On the other side of the East River is Manhattan, empty, safe, unreachable. He has boats, not many, not enough. And he has one night, one single night before dawn, brings British artillery, British infantry, the British end. So Washington makes the decision. He's going to attempt the impossible. He's going to move 9,000 men across the river, in absolute silence, in total darkness, under the nose of 32,000 enemies, with fishing boats, without being seen, without being heard, without losing anyone. Because if he loses this army, he loses everything. There is no other army. There is no plan B. There is no America without these 9,000 wet men who can barely hold a musket. And here's the truth nobody talks about. Washington wasn't building a nation that night. He was trying not to die. Sometimes, survival is the only victory possible. General William Howe is drinking wine in his command tent. He's earned it. He just won the largest battle fought in North America, crushed Washington's army in hours, killed hundreds, captured 1,000 more, drove the rest into a corner with nowhere to run. Now they're trapped against the East River, exhausted, starving, demoralized. Howe has them. All he has to do is finish it. His officers want to attack immediately, storm the American lines tonight, end this rebellion before dinner tomorrow. But Howe says no. He says wait. He says let them suffer in the rain. Let them think about surrender. Let fear do the work. He says the Americans are farmers with muskets, not soldiers. They'll break. They'll run. They'll beg for mercy when they realize there's no escape. Howe remembers Bunker Hill. Remembers charging up that hill 3 times. Remembers watching his men die by the hundreds, taking a position the Americans abandoned anyway. Remembers the cost of impatience. So he waits. He positions his forces, brings up artillery, plans the final assault for morning, clean, professional, overwhelming. The Royal Navy controls the East River. No American boat is getting past those warships. Washington can't retreat, can't reinforce, can't do anything except wait to die or surrender. It's over. Howe knows it. His officers know it. The entire British command knows it. This is how empires win wars, not with desperate gambles, with patience, with superior numbers, with the slow, crushing certainty of professional military force. What Howe doesn't know is that patience has a price. Every hour he waits is an hour Washington can think, can plan, can look at that river and wonder if the impossible might be possible after all. Arrogance and time are a dangerous combination. One makes you certain. The other gives your enemy space to prove you wrong. August 29th, 1776, 9 p.m. The evacuation begins. Washington gives the order in whispers. Officers move through the trenches, telling men to pack up. Quietly. No talking. No fires. No noise. Most of them don't understand what's happening. Some think they're repositioning. Others think they're preparing for a night attack. Nobody thinks they're about to cross a river in the dark with the entire British Army 200 yards away. The boats arrive. Fishing boats, rowboats, ferries, anything that floats, manned by Marblehead fishermen who know these waters like their own hands. The first men step into the boats, boots scraping wood, water sloshing. Every sound feels like thunder. On the British side, nothing moves. More men, more boats. The crossing is agonizingly slow. Each trip takes 30 minutes, maybe more, and there are 9,000 men to move. Washington stands at the shore, watching, counting, doing the math in his head. Dawn comes around 5 a.m. It's now past midnight. Still thousands of men waiting. They're not going to make it. Then the wind shifts. The boats that were fighting the current suddenly move faster. The Marblehead men row harder. The rhythm picks up. Still, it's not enough. 3 a.m. Half the army is still on Long Island. 4 a.m. A quarter remains. The sky begins to change. That pre-dawn gray, that means sunrise is coming. That means British pickets will see. That means cannons will fire. That means the trap closes. Washington is about to order the remaining men to prepare for a final stand when it happens. Fog. Thick, impossible fog rolls off the East River. The kind of fog that shouldn't exist in late August. The kind of fog that swallows everything. You can't see 10 feet. The boats keep moving. The men keep crossing. The British keep sleeping. By the time the sun burns through the fog at 7 a.m., there's nothing left. 9,000 men. Gone. The British advance into empty trenches. Campfires still burning. Tents still standing. Muskets propped against logs like the men just stepped away. But no army. Some things shouldn't work. Some things defy every logical calculation, and yet they happen anyway. Washington didn't win in New York. He lost catastrophically. September 15th. British forces land at Kips Bay in Manhattan. American militia panics, runs, throws down weapons and sprints north without firing a shot. Washington tries to rally them, rides between the fleeing men, screaming orders. Nothing works. He's so furious, so disgusted. He nearly gets captured because he won't retreat with them. His officers have to grab his horse's reins and pull him away. Fort Washington falls in November. 2,800 men captured in a single day. The fort was supposed to be impregnable. It lasted 4 hours. Fort Lee falls 2 days later. Washington abandons it so fast he leaves behind cannons, supplies, tents, everything. The British take New York City. They'll hold it for the rest of the war. In 12 weeks, Washington loses every major engagement, loses 3,000 men killed or captured, loses equipment he can't replace, loses ground he'll never retake. By December, his army has shrunk to barely 3,000 men. Most enlistments expire on New Year's Day. After that, he'll have almost nothing. The Continental Congress flees Philadelphia. British sympathizers openly celebrate in the streets. Newspapers print Washington's obituary as a commander. This is total defeat. Except it isn't. Because Washington is still alive. His army is still alive. Battered, broken, retreating, but alive. And he's learned something the British textbooks don't teach. He doesn't need to win battles. He needs to not lose the war. The British can take every city, can win every engagement, can control every major port. None of it matters if Washington's army survives, because the British can't be everywhere, can't hold everything, can't sustain this forever. They're fighting 3,000 miles from home. Every bullet costs money. Every soldier costs money. Every month costs money. Washington just has to make it expensive enough, long enough, until England decides it's not worth it. Defeat had taught him what victory never could. Wars aren't won by those who fight best. They're won by those who refuse to stop fighting. Christmas night, 1776, Trenton, New Jersey. Washington crosses another river. This time it's the Delaware. This time the current is clogged with ice. This time, his men are even more broken than they were at Brooklyn. But this time, Washington isn't retreating. He's attacking. The Hessian garrison at Trenton has no idea he's coming. Why would they? The war is over. Everyone knows it. Washington is finished. His army is dissolving. It's Christmas. Time to drink and rest. Washington hits them at dawn with 2,400 men who haven't been paid in months, who are marching through a blizzard in rags, who should have deserted weeks ago. The Hessians surrender in 90 minutes. 1 week later, Washington does it again at Princeton, attacks a superior British force, wins, disappears before reinforcements arrive. 2 victories don't erase the disaster of New York, don't recover the lost men, don't change the strategic reality, but they change something more important. They prove the revolution isn't dead. The British spent the fall assuming Washington was beaten, that it was just a matter of time, that professional armies don't lose to farmers and merchants playing soldier. Trenton and Princeton shatter that assumption. Suddenly the British realize they're not fighting a conventional war. There's no capital to capture that ends it. No decisive battle that settles everything. No surrender negotiation on a flagship. They're fighting an idea. And ideas don't surrender when you take their cities. Washington built this strategy in the wreckage of New York. Every retreat taught him. Every loss refined it. Every disaster that should have ended the war instead revealed how to survive it. He learned to value time over territory, survival over glory, the long game over the decisive moment. The British took New York and thought they'd won. Washington lost New York and learned how to win. 6 years later, Cornwallis surrenders at Yorktown, the greatest military power on earth, defeated by farmers who refused to quit, who learned that losing battles means nothing if you don't lose the will to keep fighting. New York was supposed to be the end. Instead, it was the education. The retreat nobody remembers saved the revolution everyone celebrates. The defeat nobody studies taught the lesson that won the war. Sometimes the most important victories look like disasters while they're happening. Here's what they don't tell you about Brooklyn. If Washington had been captured that night, and he almost was, there would be no United States, no Constitution, no Bill of Rights, no expansion west. The revolution would have died with 9,000 men trapped against a river in August 1776. The British would have hanged the signers of the Declaration of Independence as traitors, would have reinstalled colonial governors, would have crushed every whisper of independence for generations. One night, one decision, one impossible fog. That's how close it came. Washington lost New York. Lost it badly. Lost it in every way a general can lose. But he kept the one thing that mattered. He kept fighting. The men who crossed the East River in the dark weren't heroes. They were terrified farmers who wanted to go home. The general who ordered the retreat wasn't a tactical genius. He was desperate, improvising, trying not to die. But they survived. And survival, it turns out, is its own form of victory. The British won every battle in New York and lost the war. Washington lost every battle in New York and learned how to win because he understood something the Empire never could. You don't have to be undefeated. You just have to be unbroken. That's the lesson of the retreat history forgot. Not that America was destined to win. Not that freedom always triumphs. Not that righteousness defeats tyranny. But that sometimes the only thing separating collapse from continuation is the refusal to accept that it's over. Washington didn't save America with brilliance that night in Brooklyn. He saved it with stubbornness, with the grinding, unglamorous work of keeping an army alive one more day, one more week, one more winter, until one more day became 6 years, until the impossible became inevitable. The fog lifted at dawn. The British found empty trenches, and somewhere across the river, a revolution that should have died kept breathing. Now I want to ask you something. Do you think our society today would have the same resilience these men showed? Would we endure 6 years of losing just to survive? Comment below. Do you believe courage is something we're born with? Or does it only emerge when desperation leaves us no other choice? History belongs to those who survive long enough to write it.
Historical sources estimate that 3,247 American lives were lost in the New York campaign. 9,000 lives were saved in a single foggy night. Perseverance and spirit have done wonders in all ages. George Washington.